Hello, I'm Chris Shaw, and I'm wanting to work towards my um, climbing assistant. So one of the requirements in there was navigation. So I really like navigation, and so my experience with it is I used to do navigation races, and then I taught navigation to Girl Scouts, and then I did an adventure race with Girl Scouts where they had to go and find these hidden in the woods, and they started all off with just map coordinates. So they had to map out all the coordinates to all the flags, and then use the skills for following the map, the compass, and pacing so that they could go out and find these, and whoever found the most of them in a certain time frame was the winner and got a shirt and a trophy. In addition to doing the navigation races and teaching it to Girl Scouts, I also am certified in underwater navigation in my advanced scuba diving and rescue diving. So tools I'm going to be using today is a good compass. I'm going to be using a UTM guide. Then this is what I'll be using to kind of measure out distances on a map. This one has several different UTM ratios on it. And then I am using a map of Mount Hood, which is a green trails map. And then some of the books and stuff that I'm using is this Adventure Racing Navigation Supplies. It's a tabletop navigation challenge, so it has puzzles in here to figure out, but it also has really good instructions and stuff that on how to do navigation. Another good book that is really good to read is Squiggly Lines by Mark Lantanzini. He wrote a great book on doing navigation as well. So the first part of what I'm going to talk about is the map. Alright, so let's look at the map. And so on the map, it's going to tell you what the coordinate system is, which is a UTM. So we can use our UTM tool to help us map things out. That means that these black lines here are the UTM guides. On here, it's going to tell us what the scale is, which is 1 to 50,000 for the UTM. And that these blocks here, you notice that this one's marked in black, 2 kilometers. Each one of these squares that is in here is going to be 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers. Lots of scales, like the 1 to 24,000, you'll usually have it each square being a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer scale. One of the things to note is I measured and double measured it, and on my UTM guide, which has the 1 to 50,000 here, the scale that they put in here is actually wrong. It is the wrong length. It doesn't even match up to the squares, but the UTM guide does. So if you're ever got a map, double check the scale and make sure that the scale actually matches the map that it's on. Kind of a big mistake I was surprised they made. In here, then they also got a guide, so it'll kind of let you know what the different colors and stuff are on the map as far as trails, roads, boundary lines, and then other key features to note like ranger stations, towers, springs, falls, rivers, and so forth. Now, one of the key things on a map that's really important are all of the squiggly lines. Let's see if I can get... Alright, so as you can see, lots of squiggly lines everywhere, right? Squiggly lines are elevation. And so the elevation is really important because it gives you a layout of the terrain. And so the closer the elevation markers are together, the steeper something is. And then the further apart they are, that means you got a lot less change in elevation. So like if you're trying to navigate from one location to another, you can use the elevation markers to kind of figure out where passes are. If you're looking for water or going to have to cross water, you can look at the elevation going up to the river. And if you got a whole lot of lines close up going into a river, you probably got yourself a pretty steep ravine that's going to be there. And then if you're finding stuff that's got wide circles or wide areas, like here, you got a lot less elevation gain. It's going to be a little bit flatter, probably easier to traverse as well. Especially when you're looking at water, if you're in an area where you got a lot flatter areas next to the water, water is probably not as deep into ravines, things like that. Might be easier for accessing water. Might also be easier for crossing if you're having to find a place to do a crossing. So that'll also help you kind of determine terrain. So if I'm out in the woods and I don't know exactly where I'm at, I can kind of look at the terrain around me, peaks, buttes, things like that, and try to then match them up to are these the hills and stuff that I'm looking at. Should I be like truly lost and not exactly know where I'm at, that would be a way I can use the elevation to go, okay, that's a peak and it should be really steep, maybe a flat face cliff on one side. I would be able to see that on the map with the elevation markers and the squiggly lines. All right, so one of the things I'm going to do today is I'm going to map out a set of coordinates, and then after I map out the coordinates, I'm going to talk about how I am going to use the compass to navigate it. So that also brings back up top of the map, you've got directions for north as well as magnetic north, which is real important because you will be using a compass. Compass is going to point towards magnetic north, so you need to make sure that you're dialed in on your compass correctly and your map is oriented correctly so that you are looking at things from the correct perspective. All right, so in intermediate snow skills, we got a photocopy of a map where we see we have Timberline Lodge down here, and we are going to be working somewhere out in this area. So what I did was I went on the map, I found Timberline Lodge, and then looking at the elevation and contour lines, I matched up the contour lines and I placed a dot about where the center is of the circle that was drawn on the other map. And so from that's about where I'm going to go, and there's the trailhead at Timberline Lodge, and I drew myself a line between the two. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was where exactly is that on the map, so that if I needed to find it again or tell someone where I'm going to be at, I could give them the coordinates. So what I'm going to do is take and find the line intersections where these lines come across. And down at the bottom of the map, I have 600. And then going across, I have 5020. Alright, so to make it simpler for myself, one of the things I did was I took and using the 1 to 50,000 UTM guide, I took and bisected this square in half so that I got 4 1 kilometer squares now. Alright, so if this is 600, this is 601, and then that's 602. And then if this is 5020, this is 5021. And so then I can take and measure across and up to that dot to give me the coordinates, the last kilometer. So my thing goes 0 to 10, which is 1,000 meters. And so then I just measure out how far across. So if that was 600, this is 601. So 601, and then the distance across we're going to say is about halfway between the 8 and the 9. So that would be 601,850 would be the east coordinate, and then the north coordinate we would measure. And so if this is 5020, this is 5021, and then the measurement up to there, and we're going to say it's at about 3, so that's 300, so it'd be 5021 300 north. So I could give those coordinates to someone, and then they would be able to find them using UTM to know the location of where I was going to. Alright. So now that I know where I'm going, and I have a line drawn from the trailhead at Timberline to that location, I need to make sure that I'm walking in the right direction. So one of the important things to do is to take your compass. Alright, so red arrow points to magnetic north. So what I like to do is make sure I am orientated with my map so that I know magnetic north is here and that my map is matching the magnetic north. Alright. Alright, so what I've done is I've orientated so that my magnetic north on my map matches my magnetic north on my compass. Alright, so when I line up the side of my compass with the path I'm going to go, my red arrow shows me where my magnetic north is, and then I'm going to turn my dial so that it matches the compass. Alright, so now my map is orientated with magnetic north. I know that this is my direction of travel. So Now I can use my compass to let me know if I'm deviating from that direction of travel. So if I start pointing this way, my compass starts falling outside the alignment of the arrow, and I know I need to realign myself so that I keep walking in a straight line to where I'm needing to go. And that'll help me get going in that direction. The next thing I need to do is know how far I have to travel. So what I'm going to do is take and measure out with my UTM, and it looks like this line, if I am traveling in a straight line, is going to be somewhere around 800 meters. All right, so 800 meters. So pacing is the other thing that becomes important. So one of the things that we typically did with Girl Scouts is we took them out to a track. We took the 100-meter dash, and then you practice going back and forth several times, counting your pacings for 100 meters. And then I use these beads, which I keep on my pack, so that I can count. So I happen to know that my pacing for 100 meters is about 88 paces. So every time I hit 88 paces, I move the bead up. And then at that point, I know I've gone 1/10 of a kilometer, 2/10, 3/10, and I would do that till I've gone through about 8 beads. And then somewhere within the next 30 to 40 paces, I'm going to be at about the location I want to, as long as I've stayed on a straight line with my compass. And that is how I would take and measure and follow a track. And so if I was then trying to do land navigation across a big distance, I would look at my terrain, where I'm trying to go. I would probably map lines of what looks like the best route with distances, and then I could take and pace out the distances to make sure I'm staying on the route and making adjustments with my compass. And then I could use that to navigate over greater distances. So that was my quick tutorial on doing land navigation and route finding, and I hope that was what y'all were looking for. Thanks. Bye.